Next we have, I'm going to invite to stage Janet Uttley. So Janet, I think for those of us who are working kind of around the front line of trying to develop policy during COVID, you were a very familiar face on lots of Zoom calls where we were trying to sort of get a sense of how we'd reopen, how we'd kind of begin to understand how we'd invite people back into the outdoors, and it's really great to have you here to sort of present that perspective, but also think about the kind of visitor economy and its links to sustainability. So thank you very much for attending today, and welcome.
Let me just get the right button.
Yeah, that's the one.
Thank you for inviting me. Can I stand here? Am I okay here? Just so the whole slides can be seen. Okay, so for me, to start off with, working Visit Britain, Visit England, quite remote in some cases, going through COVID, I muscled into quite a lot of groups, and your group was one of those groups, so forgive me for doing that, but with good reason, because we had some great work that came out of it, and I do want that partnership element to continue, because we learnt so much from you, and I hope we were able to give some value back, certainly in the Know Before You Go work. So, for tourism, defining sustainability, practices taken by visitors and businesses in the visitor economy to minimise the negative environmental and social impacts of tourism, to enhance the economic, cultural benefits for visitors, businesses and host communities. And host communities, of course, being really important here, because what we don't want to do is to bring in visitors that get that really negative, bad welcome, bad experience. The 10-point plan that was set by government in November 2020, from that we took out, there were 5 very clear areas that affected tourism that we have focused some energies around. They may not be energies that you will have seen directly. There is a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes by the wider team in terms of connecting into relevant other government departments to make an impact. So on the electric vehicles front, accelerating the transition, I think we can all agree that that has begun to accelerate. There are challenges and there are issues on rural connectivity for that. And again, where we can influence, we are doing. We are working with Department of Transport around amplifying when they have made, as they have recently, some funding available to support that for businesses. And it's about keeping that message going for tourism with the departments that are really driving that agenda. Public transport, investment in zero emission public transport and encouraging cycling and walking as more attractive ways to travel. And we've played our part in amplifying that and working hard to make sure that that message is rising. Building now post-COVID, building now those connections to transport operators on what can be done. And if you have made yourself familiar of the Tourism Recovery Plan that was delivered by our Tourism Minister, Nigel Huddleston, which has some fantastic initiatives in and already underway of delivery, one of those things is around a Brick-Rail pass. And obviously in the current climate there are challenges there, but those negotiations are continuing, and we very much hope that we will eventually get that Brick-Rail pass so that it is something that connects. Very difficult for an international visitor to know which rail operator to go to know which ticket works for them, to work out whether that ticket works in this area because it works in that area. And whether their Oyster card that they bought in London is going to be useful for them in Manchester. They don't get it, they don't understand. Why should they? It's our hang-up. We've got to work out how we can simplify that process. Jet Zero and Greener Maritime, and there has been some really interesting and exciting projects with British Airways around the air travel, which I think we're watching very, very closely, because that is a key part. We are bringing people into the country, and quite often we hear the message of, well, why are we doing that? Just as a gentle reminder, tourism is worth 127 billion to the UK economy. It employs 3.1 million people. We're number 3 on the terms of industries that deliver for this country. It is an important driver. So we don't want to close the door on that, but we actually want to find a way that is sustainable and support that wider messaging. Homes and public buildings, we've included that because of course there are a lot of buildings that will need to follow this heat pump challenge that has been set by 2028. And nature does sit within this one. To protect and restore a natural environment, planting 30,000 hectares of trees. What an amazing year for planting trees this has been. Tree planting for the Queen for the Platinum Jubilee, that was a great spin. There's also been a really great initiative that the National Trust has followed, the Woodland Trust, each of these bodies doing their own thing around planting more trees. So this is the slide, and hopefully I won't waffle too much, because this is the slide where I tend to get the most animated. Aligning the visitor journey and taking that four-point process. So let's start on the pre-trip, the planning, the bookability, the connectivity. The key thing around bookability and the key driver and challenge that comes at us all the time is a consistent ask from our international in-market teams. We have 19 in-market teams, is we can't find anything to book. Our audience wants to pre-book. They don't just want to turn up and do, they want to know what they're going to do when they're there. There are two prongs around that pre-booking that are important. One, you know they're going to come to you if you are a paid-for location, if there is an element of something, an experience that is paid for. Two, if they've already paid, they're more likely to spend more when they're with you because they have spread that cost. And in the current economic climate, that's really key on the domestic market as much as the international market, because you kind of do want to encourage people to spend when they're with you. The connectivity and around how that information is found, it should not be deemed that it comes only from one source. So it's not just about what is on the website. Or what I will say around the website, everybody with their websites, please update the website with the key information for visitors. You will be surprised the number of people that come at us and say, particularly through COVID, because you will know I ran the We're Good to Go scheme and we had the complaints coming directly in, which I very closely monitored. The comments that were consistent were, when I turned up, this was not happening. I was told on this page of this website that there would not be an exchange of money at the entrance. There was, I'm not going. Now that was in a COVID situation, but that's across the board. If you put something on a website and you don't deliver it, there will be an element of disappointment, and it will either come back at you or me, the local destination. There will be some element that will force somebody to have a disconnect to you. Let's move round to the next one. Another key bugbear here around final mile, when we talk about distribution and dispersal. Oh, and I didn't realise I've got a product here. That's fantastic. Is that coming from me? Anyway. Final mile, always been a challenge, always been an issue. Coming here, final mile was a challenge. How we get round that, we will just keep at it, we keep plodding at it. But the key thing is to be honest in the communication, so to make sure that on the social streams that there is a way for somebody that is en route to you that can find out if they hit a problem, hit a challenge. Extending the opening season. Now this isn't just about saying, okay, you're in a rural location, you must open in that late winter season when actually it's not safe for visitors to do so. What this is saying more about is what can you do in extending your season, going maybe on the virtual. We've seen through COVID how people have loved to do virtual things. Is there something you can do around that connectivity to your space in that season that is out of the normal tourism season that might actually bring you revenue because people may pay for it, but also bring that awareness of what you do so they can come to you with ease, with comfort, when it is the height of the season. So there are two prongs there. It's not just about let's extend the season and bring people to you when you maybe don't want them. If you can safely take them, hallelujah, that's what we want. Dispersal. Now dispersal for us is very much about making sure if there are honeypot locations, we play our part in communicating where visitors could maybe go to another location. And we spent quite a lot of energy and effort through COVID, where we had, for instance, Cornwall, where it was a sudden, honeypot of everybody going, and Cornwall Tourism saying to us, you've got to help us, we're not coping. And working with the destination to what can we amplify as the safer place to go to. Not just go somewhere else, or we look at it and think it's the right place. We don't have that local knowledge, we don't have that ground knowledge. So we rely on the destination or the local body to tell us if there is a major problem and you think it's coming via a stream that's coming from us. If we know and we can help, we always will. Through COVID, we created the Know Before You Go element, which, thank you, we will credit you for that, because the calls that I had with you, it came back very much that this message wasn't getting out. I took that back to the team, they thought about, well, what can we do? And Know Before You Go was brought out. And in that Know Before You Go, it was very much about make sure that you've researched what you're doing before you get there. And that will continue. We've kept that on the website, and I think there's some elements of that work that we want to continue around this dispersal. I've got to be quick, so we'll get round. In-trip, no surprise, buy local, reduce waste, improve energy efficiency and service provision. I think the other thing I'd say about in-trip is the careful need for what you know to be fact may not be fact and may not be known to the visitor. And so many times we've seen issues and examples, and talking to Julian last week around one of the things that kind of come home to me is around people that bury barbecues, disposable barbecues on the coast, that bury the coals for barbecues on the coast. They stay heated. There was an incident in Wales, was there not, quite recently, where a child was badly burned. That person that has done that hasn't done that because they want to be bad and do the wrong thing. They've done it because they are ignorant of what they need to do. And we play a part in making sure they know the right thing. So the Countryside Code was great to be able to help you, amplify that and to be able to say these are the right messages. But it's not just about that's done, that's dusted, okay, we don't need to worry now. We now need to be thinking about, and one of my favourite phrases, my background is visitor attractions, so leading teams in visitor attractions, and have done quite a lot of work around seasonality. And one of my biggest bugbears is where we have people that worry about responding to complaints. And my argument is, let's not worry about that complaint. Yes, we've got to respond to it, but let's deal with the problem. Deal with the problem. If you've got the same thing coming back at you all the time, it may be out of your control. It may be an area that actually the waste that's overflowing isn't you, it's the local authority. So where is there a combined approach where we can work together to solve that problem at a local level? Destination management organisations, when they're good, when they're really at it, that's the role that they can help with. And post-trip, the long-term commitment to the infrastructure, it's a long-term commitment in terms of their long-term commitment to you. What will be that next time they visit you? How will they go and sell you? What will they do for you when they've had that great time going on? You can stimulate that. We did a webinar a couple of weeks back with some behavioural science, and the behavioural scientists were talking about people have got so used to email that actually they've gone a bit blind to email. So be creative. You have great postcards. Just picked up one outside. Get the children to send a postcard. That postcard goes through the post network and then arrives with the intended person. But everybody that's touched it's reading it. And you kind of think that's really old-fashioned. But actually, one of the caravan sites went back and did that and fed back. They had an amazing response from it. Think a bit creative. Go a bit against the grain. And infrastructure investment, of course, invest in what the infrastructure is to improve that visitor experience. I don't think anything I'm saying here is rocket science. I just think it's almost like that reminder. Okay. I'm quickly going to go through this research, not because it's not important, because it's amazing. This piece of research has just been released, literally went live on a webinar 2 weeks ago. And I have to turn the page because I never remember, we're a great organisation for acronyms, never remember what MIDAS is. MIDAS, the motivations, influences, decisions and sustainability. It's been done through 29 inbound markets. The figure I believe was around 3,000 in terms of respondents. It could be much bigger than that, forgive me for not knowing that figure. But basically this piece of research is live. It was a weighty piece, it's a weighty document. What I've done on here is I've given you the links. If you don't get this presentation, you can't get the hyperlinks, email me. I would love you to look at this because I think it's awesome. You can see the webinar recording and you can pick up the key findings report. It's a weighty document. Sustainability as an emerging driver of importance. I don't think that's rocket science, I think we know that. Most relevant to buzz seekers and why we are interested in buzz seekers is what our marketing team is focusing on now. For us, buzz seekers are 25 to 44-year-olds, preschoolers in the family or no children, being seen right now as most likely to spend more money. We are working on the spend more money because that's what has been charged to us by government. Most, however, are lost to what it means, and this is an interesting one. I have been doing some industry roundtables quite recently on another piece of work that I've got underway, and one of the things that has come out of that has rather shocked us, in that what was said from various different stakeholders was, yeah, I don't understand, I'm overwhelmed. I know I should be doing something, but I kind of don't know what it is I should be doing because I've got so many messages coming at me. I think there's a lot we need to do in terms of that comms, so we will be recruiting a person in specifically to look at that, specifically to look at building the case studies that we've got, so that we disseminate out what best practice looks like and try and help in that kind of fudge. Future intentions mirror past behaviour. There is an issue here, and I've already talked about these points, so that's not a surprise, but there is an importance here around greenwashing, so that it doesn't become that, you know, that nose-blind thing of greenwashing. I'm hearing it so often, I'm ignoring it. We've got to try and cut through on that and not have that be the case. It's too important. No surprise that Australia have been the lead on sustainability, but these are the themes that they followed, and that's how they've built that and got the success that they've got. So that's why we're taking our emphasis that way, following this research. And the key barriers, consistent across markets and segments, again, greater clarity. I'm almost at the end. I did want to share this one with you. Julian will like this because right at the top spot on desired experiences that people are really wanting to do, experience coastal places and scenery. I've highlighted in yellow the ones I think that would be of interest to you. Visit parks and gardens, experience rural life, so 58%. Enjoy outdoor walks, hiking and cycling, 55%. Participate in action and adventure experiences, 42%. Some of these things down at the end here were a surprise to our team. They didn't expect them to feature so highly. All of this is on our website for you to use. Please do. It's cost a lot of money, but it's really, I think, useful. And what prevents travel in a sustainable, responsible way? Well, cost is up there. Is that perceived cost or is that actual cost? I do wonder, because I do wonder if there is a little bit of a perception it costs more, maybe not so, and again, communication. Not fully understanding what sustainable tourism means, and again, that goes back to what we're getting from stakeholders saying, I'm confused now. So again, we're going straight back to that simplicity around the comms. And I know that's hard work, and I know there's nothing worse than dumbing down a report, but in some respects, it's in our interest to do that, to take it straight down and strip it down. I think you found that within the group around dogs, did you not, in some of the work around the Countryside Code. Travel trade. I wanted to highlight this. Our in-market teams consistently, we have a WebEx system where we're speaking to the teams all the time, consistently asking for information on what can be booked, on what's new, on what's happening. Great West Way, which was another one of the Discover England Fund projects that was used to start this, it's now continuing on its own. We unfortunately don't have funding to continue. They have created this brochure, which is an online brochure, it's not a print. It has got a wealth of information in it. It has got who are selling them internationally, itineraries, what the actual experience could look like. It is worth looking at the link just to see if there's anything there. If you're not doing that, you might be able to lift the idea. I thought I'd share that with you. And just one quick one around green tourism. The green tourism setup is not run by us, it is independent, and it will do business checks. It does the green check. There is a cost to be a member of that. They do, however, run case studies on their website of things that they recommend that you can download for free. There are other schemes. I know that one of the most popular ones at the moment has just gone straight out of my head. How bad is that? B Corp. So B Corp is being used. Intrepid Travel have just been successful in getting B Corp status. So if you want information about that, the best place to have it all in one place, the Business Advice Hub, and we will be amplifying case studies that appear on there. Whistle top, that's me. Just to say, the link's right at the end here. Please connect into our e-news, because anything we send out, it goes in that corporate e-newsletter. The business advice, as I've already said, where there's both inbound and England research. I haven't touched on the domestic sentiment tracker. That is continuing and has been really helpful. There will be some data in there for you, so that will take you to that. And then my final, and then I've finished, my final comment will be around sharing your PR news. Please do keep sharing your PR news, big news, because we are constantly hungry for content. We are constantly going to be hungry for content on the coast next year, because here at the coast we want to do our bit to amplify that. So if you are a coastal destination, please send that information over.